welcome back to the Practical Money with Theo, where we turn complex money into simple systems. If you want to take control of your money and feel more confident about your financial future, you are in the right place. Before I continue, the ideas that I'm sharing in this episode reflect my views and experiences. They are not meant for personal financial advice. As always, be a student, not a follower. Today's episode is unlike any other I've made on this channel, because today we are not starting with investing or budgeting or debt. We are starting with something much more personal. I'd like to talk about one of the heaviest financial burdens that rarely appears on a bank statement. Some of you have carried it for years, quietly, without telling anyone. And perhaps today, you will realize you are not carrying it alone. Over the last few weeks, we've talked about investing, building wealth, and preparing for the future. Those things are incredibly important. But today, I'd like us to begin a different conversation. A conversation about money that isn't really about money. There are financial decisions that never appear on a bank statement. There are sacrifices that nobody else ever sees. And there are conversations that millions of people have, yet very few people ever talk about openly. If you've lived far away from the people you love, I think you will understand exactly what I mean. For over 20 years, I've worked alongside people from many different countries, different cultures, different languages, different backgrounds. Yet one conversation keeps returning. Whether someone comes from Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, the Caribbean, or the Middle East, the question is remarkably similar. How do I help the people I love without losing the future that I'm trying to build? Some people call this living in the diaspora. I prefer to call it living between two worlds, because that is what it feels like. One world is where you are building your future. The other is where many of the people you love still live. Your income may be here, but part of your responsibility is somewhere else. Sometimes those two worlds live peacefully. Sometimes they collide. The challenge is that nobody prepares you for it. When we leave home, people tell us about learning a new language, finding work, building a career, adapting to a new culture. Very few people ever tell us that one day we may feel responsible for two families living in two different worlds. And that responsibility doesn't come with a handbook. No one tells you how much is enough, when to say yes, when to say no, or how to live with the guilt that sometimes follows both decisions. Perhaps that's why so many conversations between people living abroad eventually come back to the same subject. not because we are obsessed with money, but because money has become the language through which love, responsibility, and sacrifice are expressed. Can I ask you something? When was the last time you helped someone and afterwards felt completely at peace with your decision? No guilt, no second guessing, no wondering if you had done the right thing, just peace. I suspect for many people it's been a long time. Before we continue, I'd like to make one thing very clear. This series isn't about blaming anyone. Not families back home, not people living abroad, not husbands, not wives, not parents, not children, because in almost every story I've heard, everyone is trying to do the right thing. They are simply carrying different burdens and seeing different realities. Imagine two people. One is living abroad, working hard, trying to build a future. The other is back home, trying to survive today. Both wake up each morning thinking about the people they love. Both are carrying pressure. The difference is that each sees a different part of the picture. The person abroad sees the mortgage, the rent, the children, the pension, the long shifts, the rising cost of living, the uncertainty, the exhaustion. The person back home sees someone who found the courage to leave, someone earning in a stronger currency, someone they are proud of, someone they believe has the opportunities they can only dream about. Neither picture is completely wrong, but neither picture is complete. And perhaps that's where misunderstanding begins. Not because people stop loving each other, but because they stop seeing what the other person is carrying. Sometimes the greatest distance isn't between the two countries. It is between what people think your life is like and what your life actually feels like. The greatest pressure isn't sending money. The greatest pressure is never knowing where the next request will come from. Not because every request is unreasonable, but because every request asks you to make another decision, another judgment, another sacrifice, another conversation. After enough of those decisions, something begins to happen. Not to your bank account, to your mind. You start asking questions you never thought you'd ask. Can I really afford this? Should I explain? Will they understand? Am I becoming selfish? Or have I simply reached my limit? Perhaps you're driving to work, thinking about the transfer you've made yesterday. Perhaps your phone rings, and before answering, you already know what the conversation might be about. Perhaps your husband or your wife doesn't fully understand why this feels so heavy. Perhaps your children have noticed the stress but never knew why. If there is one thing I've learned over the years, it's this. People rarely ask for help because they enjoy asking. Most ask because life has placed them in a difficult position. That's why this conversation deserves compassion, not judgment. Recently, I was talking to a young man I know who follows this channel. As we were chatting, I mentioned this upcoming series. He smiled and said, "I think I know what you're talking about. I know my mom sends money home. I know it stresses her sometimes, but I don't really know the full story." That conversation stayed with me because I realized sometimes our children, our husbands, our wives, our closest friends can see the pressure, but they don't always understand it. So I encouraged him. Ask your mom to tell you her story. Not how much she sends, but what it has been like for her. Perhaps that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this series. Not because I have all the answers. Not because every family should do the same thing. But because for too long, I've watched good people carry these questions quietly, sometimes for years, without ever feeling they had a safe place to talk about them. Over the next 5 episodes, we are going to have one of the most honest conversations about money I've ever had on this channel. Not just about budgets, not just about investing, but about what happens when money meets love, family, responsibility, and 2 words. I won't tell you what to think, because every family is different. Every story is different. Every situation is different. But I hope together we will ask better questions, understand each other more deeply, and perhaps find wiser answers. If today's episode has made you think differently, then before the next episode, I would like to invite you to have one conversation, not about money, about understanding if someone you love is living between 2 worlds. Ask them one simple question. What's it been like for you? Then listen, not to reply, just to understand. Because sometimes understanding someone is the greatest gift we can give them. Next time, we will begin one question. Where does responsibility end? And where does guilt begin? Until then, take care of yourself. Take care of the people you love. And remember, fix your system, fix your money. God willing, I will see you next week. Bye-bye.